Ethan had never been anyone's first choice. In school, he was quiet, unnoticed, and often forgotten. His classmates didn't mean to be cruel, they simply didn't see him, except for Lyria. She had always seen him, but in a way that cut deeper than ignorance. She ignored him. Not because he was bad or boring, but because she had always been distant, untouchable, and seemed to live in a world of her own. Every glance from her felt like a reminder that he didn't matter. Even years later, he remembered the sting. He remembered walking through crowded hallways, trying to catch her attention, only to see her laughing with others or looking through him as if he were air. He told himself it didn't bother him, but it did. A lot. He carried that memory quietly, tucked into a corner of his mind where it wouldn't bother anyone else, but it never fully left him. On a rainy Thursday evening, Ethan sat in his small apartment, the city lights glowing dimly through the half-open window. He had his laptop on, an unfinished sci-fi novel open in one tab, and a cup of cold coffee next to him. Life was ordinary, predictable, and safe. And then there was a knock at the door. It was soft, polite, almost tentative. Ethan frowned. He wasn't expecting anyone. He checked the peephole. Outside stood a figure that seemed impossibly familiar. A tall woman with long, flowing hair that shimmered faintly under the streetlights. Her skin had a subtle glow, and her eyes, his heart stopped. Gold, molten gold. She looked right at him, and the air seemed to vibrate around her. "Ethan," she said, her voice smooth and soft but carrying a weight that made him shiver. "It's been a long time." But this wasn't the girl he remembered from school. She had changed, dramatically. Her presence was powerful, almost otherworldly. There was a strange elegance in the way she stood and a quiet energy that seemed to pulse around her. And then she smiled, just slightly, and Ethan realized he was staring. Lyria," he managed, his voice shaking. "Is that really you?" I don't understand," he stammered. "What do you mean, a bite?" He felt his chest tighten with a mix of fear and fascination. Somehow this was real. Somehow the girl who had ignored him for years had become something else entirely. "I don't think," he began, but she interrupted him with a gentle gesture. "You will feel nothing but a little warmth, Ethan. You won't even know how much it changes you, but it will matter." He could feel the pull of curiosity mixed with the faint fear crawling along his spine. Part of him wanted to slam the door, retreat into normalcy, pretend this was a hallucination. Another part of him wanted to step forward to see, to touch, to understand what had become of Lyria. He hesitated for only a moment before stepping aside. "Come in," he said quietly. The moment she entered, the apartment felt different. The air was charged, almost vibrating with an energy that seemed alive. Lyria moved toward him without hesitation, her eyes never leaving his. She held her hand out, a gentle invitation rather than a command. Ethan felt a strange urge to place his hand in hers, as if some invisible force was guiding him. "Relax," she said softly. "It won't hurt, it's just a small connection." He could hear the hum of electricity from the refrigerator, the soft creak of the floorboards, the distant rhythm of traffic outside. It was overwhelming, and yet it felt right. Lyria's eyes softened. "You're extraordinary, Ethan. Do you feel it? Only a few humans can accept it without being harmed. You can. You notice things others overlook. You survive where others fail. My species values that. You used to matter so little to me," he said, almost laughing at the irony. "And now you're saying I matter to an entire alien species." For the first time in his life, he was noticed, not as someone invisible or ordinary, but as someone remarkable, capable, and alive in ways he had never imagined. They spent the evening talking. Lyria explained her species' history, their travels across galaxies, their fascination with humans, and the reason for her visit. Ethan asked countless questions, his mind racing to keep up with every new revelation. Time seemed to stretch and bend around them, the small apartment becoming a hub of cosmic conversation. When the night grew late, Lyria stood and looked at him, her golden eyes glowing softly. "Tomorrow, we begin something new," she said. "But tonight, rest. You need time to adjust. Your world has changed, Ethan, even if you cannot see it yet. You are more than that now." The fear, the wonder, the excitement, it all swirled inside him. Tomorrow, he thought, would be different. He would be different. The invisible boy was gone. What remained was someone new, someone important, someone extraordinary. As he drifted to sleep, the last thought in his mind was of Lyria, the girl who had ignored him, now the alien vampire standing at his door, and the strange, thrilling promise of a world larger and stranger than he had ever imagined. Ethan didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing. Life had become a story worth living. And for once, he was the main character. Ethan woke up the next morning with a strange sense of energy pulsing through him. The apartment was quiet, the city still muffled under the soft glow of dawn. At first, he thought he was dreaming, but when he stood, he realized his senses felt sharper. The texture of the carpet under his feet seemed more vivid, the distant hum of traffic clearer than ever. Even the sunlight streaming through the window felt warmer, almost alive. He rubbed his eyes, trying to make sense of it. "It must be the bite," he whispered to himself. The memory of Lyria's presence, her golden eyes, her soft but commanding voice, and the warmth of the connection came rushing back. It had been brief, she had said, but its effects lingered, and linger they did. By mid-morning, Ethan could see small things he had never noticed before. The tiny vibrations in the apartment walls, the shifting patterns of light on the ceiling, even the faint pulse of energy in electronic devices. It was like waking up in a world that had been there all along but invisible to him. The realization made him sit down heavily. Lyria had been right. He was no longer the same. He decided he needed to see her again. The questions piled in his mind. What exactly was her species? Why had she chosen him? Could this power grow? And most importantly, why did she appear at his door years after ignoring him? The knock came mid-afternoon. He barely had time to reach the door before it opened. Lyria was there as if no time had passed, her golden eyes calm but alert. She stepped inside without hesitation. "Good morning," she said, her voice soft yet carrying an energy that made the room hum. "You've adjusted well. The bite was small, but your body and mind are extraordinary. You will learn quickly, and in time you will understand your full potential." The universe, his mind raced. He had spent his life blending in, hiding, trying not to be noticed. And now Lyria, this alien vampire who had once ignored him, was telling him that humans, specifically him, were being observed. Not just observed, but valued. "Why me?" he asked, his voice trembling. "There are billions of humans. Why choose me?" That his quiet observation, his years of being overlooked, had prepared him for something greater. They sat together, and she began to teach him. Lyria explained her species, biology, their long travels across the stars, and their fascination with humans. Her species fed not only on energy, but on connection. They sought understanding, not destruction. Humans, she explained, were rare, resilient, creative, and emotionally complex in ways that even the most advanced aliens struggled to comprehend. "You may not realize it yet," she said, "but humans have something we lack, your unpredictability, your emotion, your courage. That is what makes you remarkable. So you're here to test me." Control what he could do. His mind flashed back to his normal, ordinary life, a quiet job, a small apartment, meals of instant noodles, and now in a matter of hours his life had transformed. "Will it change me forever?" he asked. "Only if you let it," she replied. "You are human, Ethan, that will always define you. But it is your choices now that will determine how far you can go." Ethan had to quiet his mind, focus on what he could feel rather than what he saw or thought he knew. By evening, he was exhausted but exhilarated. His senses were sharper, his thoughts clearer, and he felt alive in a way he had never imagined. Lyria watched him carefully, noting every flicker of doubt, every spark of curiosity, every moment of triumph. "You are learning quickly," she said, her eyes glowing softly in the dim light. "Faster than many of my species." Ethan thought of his years in school, the countless times he had felt invisible, the sting of rejection and indifference. And now those memories felt different. They were not failures but preparation. Every moment of being overlooked had taught him patience, observation, and endurance, qualities no alien technology could replicate. Night fell and the city outside his window glimmered under the streetlights. Lyria sat across from him, watching silently, her presence comforting yet commanding. Ethan felt a strange bond forming, a mixture of trust, curiosity, and awe. "You'll meet others soon," she said finally, breaking the silence. "Humans are not alone in the universe, though most have no idea. There are factions, some friendly, some less so. Your species is being observed for reasons you cannot yet understand." His world, once predictable and safe, now stretched into a vast and dangerous galaxy. And yet, despite the fear, he felt a thrill he had never known. For the first time, he was part of something larger than himself. "Will I be safe?" he asked. "That depends on you," Lyria replied. "You are no longer just a human in your small city. You are someone who can affect outcomes, make choices, and survive in ways few could. The bite unlocked a connection, but your courage, intelligence, and creativity will determine your survival. That is the gift of being human." And now he realized something. He had always been stronger than he knew. The bite had awakened his senses, but it was his human heart, mind, and spirit that truly mattered. Lyria stood, moving toward the door, but paused. Rest tonight. Tomorrow we begin training beyond this apartment. You will meet others, both human and alien. And you will learn what it means to stand as a human in a universe that underestimates your species. Sleep came slowly, his mind buzzing with possibilities. He dreamed of stars and galaxies, of strange beings with glowing eyes, of adventures and dangers he had never imagined. And always in the center of the dream was the feeling of connection between him and Lyria, between humans and the wider universe. When morning came, Ethan awoke with determination. The bite had given him power, yes, but it had also given him perspective. For the first time, he saw himself not as someone insignificant, ignored, or ordinary, but as a human capable of extraordinary things. And he knew deep in his bones that this was only the beginning. The world outside his window was the same city it had always been, but to him it looked different. Alive, vibrant, full of possibilities he had never noticed. He took a deep breath, feeling the energy within him, and smiled. Whatever came next, aliens, danger, or adventure, he was ready. And somewhere across the universe, Lyria watched and waited, confident that the human she had chosen was ready to step into a story far larger than either of them had ever imagined. Ethan felt different that morning. The small bite from Lyria had done more than sharpen his senses. It had changed the way he thought. He could feel patterns where none existed before, sense the subtle energy of the city, and anticipate small movements around him. Even the simplest tasks felt more precise: pouring coffee, brushing his teeth, walking down the hallway. The world was alive, and he could read it. Lyria arrived shortly after dawn, her presence as commanding as ever. She didn't knock this time. She simply appeared at the doorway as though she had always been there. Her golden eyes scanned him, and for a brief moment he felt as if she were seeing not just him, but everything he was capable of. "You've adjusted well," she said. "But today begins something more difficult. And you must learn to rely on your mind and instincts, not just the bite's energy." As they walked, Ethan noticed things he hadn't before: strange symbols etched on buildings, subtle shifts in the behavior of people nearby, faint energy readings he couldn't explain. "Aliens?" he asked cautiously. "Some are allies," Lyria said. "Others are observers, and some are opportunists. Humans are not as isolated as they think. Your species has drawn attention for a reason. That reason will become clear soon." The space was filled with beings unlike any he had ever seen, tall, slender creatures with translucent skin, glowing eyes, and limbs that seemed to bend in impossible ways. Some humans were there too, but their demeanor was different. They moved with purpose, their eyes sharp, alert, and confident. "This is your first real introduction," Lyria said. "All of these beings are aware of humanity's potential. Some respect it, some question it, and some will test it. That is your strength. The new ones tend to think differently. Don't let anyone intimidate you. Trust your instincts." The group was led to a virtual simulation room, a space where reality bent according to the mind's perception. Each participant faced a challenge, a maze filled with traps, shifting walls, and energy patterns that moved unpredictably. Lyria's voice echoed in his mind, guiding him. "Observe, predict, adapt, trust your senses and your mind. Your species survives because you think beyond what is obvious." His human intuition, combined with the bite's enhanced perception, allowed him to anticipate movements and navigate with surprising speed. Mara watched him closely, nodding in approval. "Not bad," she said. "You think like a human, and that's why you're valuable. Don't forget it." Lyria observed silently, then spoke. "Humans have a remarkable quality," she said. "You do not rely solely on strength, speed, or energy. You think, adapt, and improvise. That is why your species endures, even when facing superior forces." It wasn't the bite's energy, or alien training, or even his physical body. It was him, his mind, his perception, his ability to notice what others missed. But the lessons didn't stop there. Lyria introduced them to a challenge that went beyond physical or mental tests. The group was presented with an ethical dilemma, a situation where they had to choose between saving a small group of humans trapped in danger or preventing a catastrophic energy leak that could affect the entire city. The aliens watched their decisions closely. Many faltered, paralyzed by logic or fear. Ethan hesitated briefly, weighing the consequences, but then realized what he had learned. Humans survive not because they always make the perfect choice, but because they act decisively when needed. He led the group to a solution that saved the trapped humans while minimizing the energy risk. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. Lyria's voice echoed in his mind again. See. Human courage and decision-making cannot be replicated. You are adaptable. You act where others hesitate. That is why you matter. And most importantly, he had survived, intact, confident, and aware of the potential inside him. That night back at his apartment, Ethan sat quietly, reflecting on everything he had learned. The bite had given him enhanced perception, yes, but it was his human qualities, courage, intuition, adaptability, that truly mattered. He realized something profound. Aliens could have strength, speed, and technology, but humans had unpredictability. Humans had creativity. Humans had heart. A soft knock at his door pulled him from his thoughts. Lyria stood there, her golden eyes glowing softly in the dim light. She stepped inside without hesitation, as always. "You did well today," she said. "You observed, adapted, and acted. You are beginning to understand why humans are remarkable. The universe is dangerous, Ethan, and not all beings will respect humans. But your species has something worth protecting, something worth investing in." Humans, she said, thrived in uncertainty. They adapted, improvised, and survived when others failed. Ethan thought about his life before the bite, quiet, unnoticed, and ordinary. And now he realized how wrong he had been about himself. He was learning to see the world differently, to think differently, and to act differently. The small bite had been a catalyst, but it was his human qualities that made the difference. As Lyria finally left, she paused at the door. "Tomorrow you will face new challenges, real ones. You will meet others who will test you, and you will see the universe in ways you cannot yet imagine. But remember this, your strength lies in being human. Trust yourself, Ethan. Your species has already survived where others would fail." He sat by the window, thinking about the day's lessons. Observation, improvisation, courage, and decisiveness. These were the qualities that had kept humans alive, that had allowed him to survive challenges no one else could. He realized that every moment of being overlooked in his past, every small failure, every high school slight, it had all prepared him for this. The universe outside was vast, filled with beings of unimaginable power, but humans had something no one could replicate: unpredictability, creativity, heart. And Ethan was beginning to understand how valuable that truly was. Ethan woke to a different kind of tension that morning. The city outside looked normal, quiet streets, soft sunlight reflecting on windows, but he could feel something unusual in the air. A subtle vibration, almost like a hum beneath the normal sounds of the city, pulsed through his senses. He recognized it immediately, an alien presence, one that was Lyria. Before he could process it, a familiar glow filled the room. Lyria appeared at his doorway, her golden eyes sharper than ever. She moved quickly but gracefully, the way only her species could. "We don't have much time," she said. "Something has arrived, something dangerous. It's a rogue faction of my species. They don't respect humans and view your kind as expendable. We must prepare." He had never imagined that his life would involve interstellar threats, and now it was happening right at his doorstep. "Prepare how?" he asked, trying to mask the fear in his voice. "You will rely on your human instincts and the skills you have learned," Lyria replied. "Your species survives through unpredictability. That will be our advantage. But they underestimate something fundamental: your humanity. They do not anticipate ingenuity, creativity, or courage." Ethan caught sight of their ships in the distance, sleek and black, moving with predatory precision. Unlike the disciplined elegance of Lyria's kind, these beings were ruthless. Their presence sent a chill through the warehouse, but the humans remained calm, relying on preparation and strategy. Lyria stepped forward. "You will guide this operation," she said. "Your choices will determine the outcome. Trust your instincts, Ethan. Your species has a unique advantage: unpredictability. Use it." The humans under his guidance were ready, though nervous. He felt the bite's energy pulsing through him, sharpening his senses, but it was his mind, thinking, adapting, improvising, that mattered most. The first wave of attack was subtle but deadly. Small drones moved through the city, attempting to identify human weaknesses. Most beings relied on brute force or energy manipulation, but Ethan noticed patterns in their behavior. Their movements were predictable, their scanning methods systematic. Humans, he realized, could exploit that. He gave quick instructions. "Move left, not right. Use the shadows and noise to confuse them. Don't confront them head-on. They anticipate direct threats, not subtle diversions." He instructed the humans to split, regroup, and use improvised tactics. Walls, streetlights, and abandoned vehicles became tools. It was not raw strength, but strategy, intuition, and human unpredictability that gave them the edge. Lyria observed quietly from the command center. Her expression was calm but intense, her golden eyes reflecting both approval and surprise. "They do not expect this," she whispered. "Humans survive because they adapt when others cannot." Hours passed and the battle escalated. Ethan directed humans and a few loyal aliens, coordinating movements, improvising plans, and responding to threats in real time. He noticed moments where courage outweighed caution. A human sprinted across an open street to lure a drone. Another created a diversion by setting off a harmless energy flare. These actions, small on their own, were unpredictable and disrupted the enemy's strategies repeatedly. At one point, a rogue alien attempted to infiltrate the warehouse. Ethan spotted it just in time. Without hesitation, he instructed Mara and two others to corner the intruder while he created a distraction. Using a combination of lights, sounds, and improvisation, they managed to trap the alien without physical combat, relying on human ingenuity rather than alien strength. The rogue faction soon realized they were outmatched, not in raw power but in adaptability. They tried to retreat, but Ethan anticipated it. Using city infrastructure, humans set subtle traps that delayed their ships, forcing them to take riskier maneuvers. Each step showcased the human advantage, thinking, predicting, improvising. By the end of the engagement, the rogue faction retreated. They had underestimated the humans and paid the price. Ethan felt exhaustion creeping in, but also exhilaration. He had witnessed firsthand how human qualities, unpredictability, courage, and creativity, could triumph even against a seemingly superior force. Lyria approached him afterward, her golden eyes glowing warmly. "You see now?" she asked. "Your species is extraordinary. You survive not because of strength or technology, but because you think, adapt, and act where others hesitate. That is why we protect, observe, and sometimes challenge you. You are worth it. I never imagined humans could be this effective. You have proven your worth." The city looked calm, but he knew the quiet was temporary. The universe was large, full of challenges, and humans were only beginning to understand their place within it. "You will rest tonight," Lyria said. "Tomorrow brings new lessons, but remember, what you did today was not a fluke. Your species survives because it adapts. You survived because you are human." He thought of his high school years once more, not with regret but with clarity. Those years of invisibility, of rejection, of learning to observe rather than act, had given him skills he never knew he possessed. Skills that today had saved lives and turned the tide of an alien attack. For the first time, Ethan understood something profound. Being human was not a weakness. It was a strength unlike any other, and he was only beginning to see how far that strength could take him. Lyria stayed a moment longer, her presence calm and reassuring. "You have grown," she said softly. "Not because of the bite, but because of who you are. That is what makes humans remarkable. Never forget it." He had faced real danger, commanded humans, and outsmarted a species that considered humans insignificant. And yet he had survived, not through alien power, but through human ingenuity and courage. He looked out the window at the city, lights twinkling against the darkening sky. The universe was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable. But humans, he realized, had something no alien could replicate. Heart, courage, creativity, and above all, unpredictability. For the first time, Ethan felt ready for whatever came next. He was no longer the boy ignored in school. He was a human, capable, resilient, and extraordinary. And tomorrow he would prove it again. The city had settled into quiet again, but Ethan could feel the hum of the universe beneath it. The rogue faction had retreated, but their presence was a reminder that the galaxy was far larger and far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. He sat in his apartment, thinking about what had happened. His life had changed completely in a few short days, from being ignored in school to being a central figure in interstellar events. The bite from Lyria had given him new senses, yes, but it was not the energy that had made the difference. It was his human mind, his courage, and his ability to adapt under pressure. That was what had turned the tide against the rogue faction. For the first time, Ethan understood the true value of being human. A soft knock at the door broke his thoughts. Lyria stepped in, her golden eyes warm but serious. "We have work to do," she said. "The rogue faction will regroup. They will not give up so easily, but we have an opportunity now, a chance to show the universe what humans are capable of. Not just humans and my species, but others who understand that the universe needs balance. You, Ethan, will be at the center. not because of power, but because of perspective. Humans have something unique: creativity, unpredictability, courage. That is why you will lead. He had always been the quiet one, the boy who watched and listened while others acted. But now he realized that those very traits, the patience, the observation, the ability to notice what others miss, made him an ideal leader for this unprecedented alliance. The next days were a whirlwind. Lyria introduced Ethan to other humans who had undergone similar enhancements and had learned to trust their instincts. They were engineers, strategists, and thinkers, each with a unique skill set, but all shared one trait: unpredictability. Together, they worked with Lyria's people to build defenses, prepare strategies, and train for encounters with factions that saw humans as weak. Ethan learned quickly. He coordinated teams, anticipated threats, and improvised solutions that amazed even the seasoned aliens. He realized that humans had something no alien species could replicate: the ability to see beyond the obvious, to take risks that others would avoid, and to act decisively even in uncertainty. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lyria led Ethan to a vantage point overlooking the city. "You've done well," she said, "but tomorrow brings the real test. The rogue faction will return, larger and more prepared. They will not underestimate humans again. You must lead with everything you have." He thought of high school, of being ignored and overlooked, and how those experiences had taught him patience, observation, and resilience. Now those lessons mattered more than ever. He was no longer invisible. He was human, extraordinary, and capable of shaping the future. The next morning, the rogue faction arrived in full force. Massive ships descended, drones scattered through the streets, and their energy was palpable. The humans and allied aliens were ready, but Ethan knew this would not be simple. He had to rely on strategy, improvisation, and the unique qualities of humans. He gave clear, decisive orders, using tactics that leveraged unpredictability. Humans created diversions, set traps using the environment, and acted in ways no alien could anticipate. Drones and ships were misdirected, forces miscalculated, and chaos became an ally. Ethan's mind worked quickly, adapting to every movement, anticipating every action. At one point, a massive drone broke through the perimeter. Ethan saw it approaching a group of humans who were trapped in a narrow street. Without hesitation, he directed another group to create a diversion. They used holographic projections, lights, and energy pulses to confuse the drone, giving the trapped humans time to escape. The drone's superior technology was rendered useless against the ingenuity and courage of humans acting unpredictably. The rogue faction's leaders realized their miscalculation too late. They had underestimated the humans' adaptability, their willingness to take risks, and their ability to improvise. Every move they had planned was countered by human creativity. Every attempt to dominate was met with strategy that could not be predicted. Lyria watched from the command center, her eyes reflecting both pride and relief. "Humans are remarkable," she said softly. "They survive when others fail, not because of strength, but because of heart and ingenuity. Ethan understands that, and he has led them brilliantly." Their ships disappeared into the sky, leaving behind a city unharmed and humans and allies standing victorious. Ethan felt a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. They had won not because of brute strength, but because of human qualities: imagination, courage, and the ability to act unpredictably. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the city, Lyria appeared beside him. "You have proven yourself," she said. "Not just to your species, but to the universe. Humans are not weak, they are extraordinary, and you have shown what that means." In his place stood a human who had led others against a superior force, who had demonstrated ingenuity and courage, and who had earned respect across species. "I never thought," Ethan began, "that humans could matter this much, that I could matter this much." "You've only begun to realize it." It was unpredictability and creativity, traits that no alien technology could duplicate. That night, Ethan returned to his apartment, exhausted but fulfilled. He sat by the window, gazing at the stars, thinking about the vast universe he had glimpsed. Lyria had shown him that humans mattered not because they were strong, but because they were human. And he knew that the bite, the training, and the trials had only unlocked potential that had always been there. As he reflected, a soft glow filled the room. Lyria appeared once more, her presence calm and reassuring. "Rest now," she said. "You have done more than I could have hoped, but remember, this is only the beginning. Humans will continue to face challenges, and your species will rise because of what you have demonstrated today." The universe will test humans again, but you have shown that the heart, mind, and courage of your species cannot be underestimated. You have led, adapted, and survived. That is your gift and your strength. He thought of the humans he had worked with, the aliens he had guided, and the rogue faction they had overcome. Every moment had reinforced the same truth. Humans were unpredictable, resourceful, and courageous. That was why they mattered. That was why he mattered. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt completely certain of something. Being human was not a limitation. It was a strength unlike any other. He had faced danger, led others, and survived in ways he could never have imagined. And he knew that the future, whatever it held, was bright because humans had heart, ingenuity, and courage. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars scattered across the earth. Above, the universe stretched endlessly, full of challenges, dangers, and wonders. And somewhere beyond the sky, Lyria watched, confident that humans had proven their worth. Ethan leaned back in his chair, feeling a quiet pride. He was no longer the boy ignored in school. He was a human, extraordinary and capable. He had led, survived, and shown that the smallest species on a small planet could make a difference in a universe of unimaginable size. And in that moment, he understood something deeper than anything he had learned before. Humans were not just alive, they were remarkable. Tomorrow, the universe would continue, full of challenges and adventures. But Ethan knew one thing for certain: humans would rise, and he would rise with them. The stars outside seemed to shine a little brighter, reflecting the spark inside him. He was human. He was extraordinary, and he was ready for everything that lay ahead.